Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Inga Cotton. I'm the founder and executive director of San Antonio Charter Bombs, and these are Charter Bombs chats, and it is enrollment season. So there are lots of amazing schools of choice in San Antonio that are starting to take applications for the 2022-23 school year, which I can't believe I'm even saying that. It seems like it's so far away, but it's just around the corner, and the time to plan ahead is now. So today on the blog, we're featuring the School of Science and Technology, and on if you go to the description of the video, you can click through and find our enrollment guide blog post, which is like 2,000 words of goodness about the School of Science and Technology and their campuses in San Antonio. But to talk about it, to bring it to life, we have two special guests. So Abel De Leon is the marketing director of marketing communications for SST. But when I met him, he was the principal at SST Northwest, and he busted out the ukulele to to cheer up the kids. And so he's been a teacher and a school leader, and now works at the central office. And then we also have Elsye Rodriguez, and she wears many hats. She does student recruitment for all the regions. She's a health specialist. She's also the president of the Alumni Association, because she is a graduate of the SST main campus from 2011. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So you've known it as a student and as now somebody who works in the central office to make things run smoothly for SST. So thank you, Abel, and thank you, Elsye.
Thank you for having us.
Okay. All right. So let's jump in. Let's see. My first question is for Abel. So he's going to go on the big screen here. Okay. So Abel, I want you to talk to us about the mission and vision of SST.
Sure, I'd love to talk about the mission and vision. And before I get into that, let me say, Inga, an honor to be on the show again. Had so much fun last time. I think I still have dreams from that first one, and it's great to be back. I love what SA Charter Moms does for the San Antonio community. I love that you guys are helping people find schools of best fit. We always say SST might not be right for everybody, but maybe it's right for you, right? And the only way to know that is to get this kind of information. So I really value the platform that you give to not just SST, but to all the charter schools in San Antonio and the schools of choice. I think that's such a valuable asset to our families. And I know that it's something that changed my family's trajectory in my entire life. I know we'll talk about that a little bit more. But to answer the question specifically, the mission of SST is near and dear to all of our hearts. School of Science and Technology drives an academic and social emotional development through a college preparatory STEM-based learning model. And SST's model is anchored in 21st century skills, embraced by a character-building approach, and it's delivered in an enriching, safe, and student-centered learning environment. And that's why our vision is nurturing world-class scholars and ethical citizens to build a better future for all.
That is beautiful. It's I didn't I remember like sort of reading about SST, but it wasn't until I actually got to go on campus where I was like, yes, they really are doing all those things. Like it's a very ambitious mission and vision. But when you actually set foot on campus, I guess self-disclosure, both my kids are now enrolled at SST. So so I'm experiencing this as a parent as well. So both my kids spoke up and said that they wanted to study STEM careers, and they're interested in things like computer science, graphic design. Well, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Anyway, but they're getting those things, but they appreciate like the character education part, that like how students are kind to each other. And it just seems like there's a lot of little details that the folks at SST do right, and all those things add up to a really good experience for the students. So, okay, well, I want to ask. Oh, I'm going to segue to. I kind of foreshadowed this, but Abel, I mentioned that you have been a teacher. I watched you play ukulele in your role as king of the narwhals, and but I wanted, and then also like about your family background, because you wrote a beautiful guest post for us about like why you work in education, and the inspiration that goes back to your grandfather. So just talk to us about your background, like coming from your family, and then like the different roles you've had at SST.
Yeah, I'd love to, Inga. So one of the things that I'll say is my family history and kind of where my family came from and how we got to where we are today is one of the big driving factors that really makes me so passionate about working in education, and specifically about working at SST, if I'm honest, which is why I've been here for at least the last 13 years. I'm losing count at this point, but I think it's been 13, 14 years I've been with SST. And I want to start with kind of my family history, and then I'll go into a little bit more specific about SST and my roles there. But in the beginning, right, my mother's family was migrant farm workers. and we're talking dirt floor living, making their own clothes out of flour sacks and things like that, destitute, crushing poverty, right? But my grandfather, he kind of keyed in on the concept that education is the key that opens all doors if you use it right, he said. And so he decided he was going to be an advocate for education in his family, and he knew that that was going to be our ticket out. It was going to be our ticket to a better future. And so in every new town they stopped in, they had a saying, even if we're only in town for 1 week, you'll all go to school. And so the first stop was the local school where he'd enroll all his kids and make sure they went there all day and focused on learning, and then came back and worked in the fields until it was too dark to pick. So from my mom's family, which, by the way, all of her siblings, including her, all graduated in the top 10 of their high school classes. 100% of them went on to earn bachelor's degrees. 100% of them went on to earn master's degrees. And some of them even earned doctorates. And so that's something that completely took us from that destitute poverty to solidly middle class. And my generation, my cohort, was able to really build upon that. And we were all able to really follow our dreams. And so I've got, cousins that are doctors, lawyers, international business people, all kinds of really amazing professions. And I've chosen to stay in education because I'm passionate about it. And one of the reasons I'm passionate about it is because on my dad's side, it's not like he came from a whole lot of money either, right? He was also the child of an immigrant and led a very kind of simple life, in terms of their finances. But my father always used to tell me a common refrain when I was a kid. He'd say, son, there's two things in life that you got to build up as much as you can, because they're the two things that no one can take away from you. And they're the two things that make you who you are. And those things, he said, were education and your character. And so ever since I was a child, I've seen firsthand the kind of transformative power that education has on families and the entire family line. And then from my father, I also learned the value of character and education. And so believe my chagrin, when I stumbled upon SST at a job fair many years ago, and they started telling me about how they were a school that focused on delivering a better education towards a better future. And part of that complete education meant character. And so they also taught character and STEM because it was the next big thing. And so I just thought, wow, this is amazing. I really feel like I found a place that I can call home. Sign me up, coach. And so I started out teaching. And so my very first year, I was a teacher. I taught a few different subjects, Texas history, U.S. history, AP U.S. history. And actually, I had one student that everyone in this interview will be familiar with. One, Elsie Rodriguez, was actually one of my students back in the day. So I'm proud to have contributed to all the greatness that you see before you today in Elsye Rodriguez here. But so, like I said, I started out as a teacher. I really found a passion for working with the kids. And I saw that SST has a system that really allows individuals to be empowered, to go above and beyond, and really take ownership of not only their classroom, but of the school, of the community, to really contribute to making SST something even more special. And so that really appealed to me, the idea of being able to have that significant of an impact on so many lives. It felt like I was affecting more than the students that were in my class, but actually all the kids in the school. I knew their names, they knew my names. We would see each other in the halls. We're always monitoring the halls, all those kind of things. And so, I thought maybe education is a place that I'll stay even longer than I thought. Maybe it's something that I could end up being a lifer here. And one day, my assistant, and so my principal at the time asked me if I would be, an assistant principal with him. And I don't want to get too into it because I know we'll talk about it a little bit more later. But I said, I can only if I got a master's degree. So if you give me a letter of recommendation for a master's degree, then I'll be your assistant principal. And more on that later. But I'll say that ever since I did, spoiler alert, get that master's degree and was put into that first administrative role as a dean of students, I saw that impact increase, and I saw my ability to help the teachers. And there's so many great teachers at SST that are just looking for their opportunity to really help kids go to that next level. And so I really got to a whole nother level of passion, being able to assist at that level and to really affect things on that scale. And so then I moved up to being a dean of academics. At that time, I was also the special ed coordinator, the GT coordinator, ESL coordinator. I was our McKinney-Vento liaison for homeless students. You name it. I was working that position, and it was great to do so. I learned so much during those years in that crash course, and kind of seeing every position from the kind of backstage. And so I'll say that I really feel like being involved from kind of the teacher level all the way through administrative, and now even being the founding principal of SST Northwest, and after that coming here to central office, I feel like I really have a great understanding of how SST does what it does. And I think it's like you said, Inga, I think when you first hear about SST, you think, this sounds too good to be true. These guys are teaching character, they're teaching STEM, they're embedding it into everything somehow so that every subject involves STEM and character. How does that work? And they're sending kids to Harvard and MIT and things on scholarships? How can that be? But after being involved at every level, I can tell you that it's really just an effort of love, right? It's a labor of love that everyone's working together as a team at SST. And I'm just so proud to be part of this team that's so simpatico with my own values, that great education and great character are really the keys to success and to being a fully actualized individual.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to put Elsie on the big screen. Now we get to talk to the student who's now the graduate, who's now like helping other alumni, right? And helping with enrollment. So Elsie, can you talk about your experience as a student and then your experience as a staff member at SST?
I think just starting off right off the back when we first heard of SST, it was the same thing. It's a small charter school starting up. I started in 9th grade actually at SST San Antonio. And coming from such a big public middle school, making that transition to way smaller classrooms. And at the time, like I said, it was starting up. And it was definitely a gamble trying to figure out, is this going to work? But the main thing that I think like brought us into SST was as soon as we even expressed interest, somebody reached out automatically. Somebody reached out and they said, hey, can we do a home visit? And we were very shocked and we said, what's a home visit? This is something new. And they said, we just want to talk about what we have. So it was very different coming from, you usually apply to schools and it's what can the student offer the school? Everybody wants enrollment. But I think that for me made it very personal because that was a moment that I realized, hey, they actually care about the students. They want to come to my home, or wherever it was at the time that we were meeting, and just get to know me to see if it is a fit and offer and talk about the information that we had. So right off the bat, that was something that I want to say that immediately I felt a sense of family. It wasn't just another school. It was somebody like, hey, there really is someone there behind this application. It's just not like a normal system. And I think we went through the process and we did an interview at the time, went through everything, and I decided that it was something that, I really was interested in. And fast forward now to being a staff member, I think one of the things that's always kept us through is the same thing, that sense of family. Like Mr. De Leon said, I was lucky enough to have him as my teacher. And right off the bat, he was one of the teachers that really did make an impact on me. And I said, at the time, of course, everything was starting off, and he was years ago, way younger years ago. It was something that I realized that it's not just a teacher, he became a mentor to us. He became someone that, hey, I can go to if I have these questions. So it was something that like I said, it just became a mentor versus just like a teacher, someone that's there for me. And I think just the core values, and right now we're talking a lot about character, and this is something that a lot of schools are doing, but I feel like this is something that SST was doing even before it was cool, even before it was something that was brought up, and we didn't know it at the time. It was something as far as like caring or kindness and integrity, which is of course like our district core values now. But like I said, it was something so normal going through it. It wasn't like, hey, these are the characters, this is what we're working on. It was just everyday life at SST. So I think just going through the process, seeing from the student's point of view and now the staff point of view, it just remained the same core values throughout it, which is why for me it was something so strong that I said, hey, I really believe in the system. I really believe in what they're doing because I am a product of SST. So I think from that is when I realized, like, I want to not only just for myself, but be able to share that with multiple students. And we talked about too, better education, like Mr. De Leon said, and maybe for families that aren't coming from like wealthy families or can't afford to do private school. It was something that we got the chance, even when I started, that you should have the equal opportunity to have a good education. So that was something that my ticket at that time, I saw that SST as my ticket to a better future. And that's what we talked about. And that's what we want to push for our students now, and still give them the same, I want to say, like, education and same opportunities that we had at the time as well.
Yeah. And Elsie, that's beautiful. And and now you get to support the alumni community. So can you tell me a little bit about that? And there's like a scholarship program and things?
Yes. So one of the key points that we talked about, of course, I'm graduating class of 2011, so it's been a couple of years. We talked about one of the key things that right off the bat that I noticed with SST, it was always, and Mr. De Leon would tell us, and I will blame him for this as well. They would tell us, what college are you going to? Where are you applying? What are you thinking about? And even at the time, if you didn't have something in mind, it started, you started thinking about it, because it's something that they talked about so much, to the point where we're like, okay, miss, I'm going to apply. Like, I know this, or Mr. De Leon, okay. And they would tell us about different colleges and universities and so on. And it instilled in us, it wasn't where are you going to college? It wasn't if you're going to college, it's where are you going to college? What are you going to do? Or if you're going to join the military, something they always talked about the future. So I think with working with the alumni, we sat together, a couple of alumni at the time, and we said, they prepared us so much for college. It was a pathway for that. But when we talked about, and that's just for alumni, not just with SST, we talked about, and we did like surveys, what is the number one reason why people are not graduating? Because we're getting them to college, but why is it that they're dropping out? Or maybe they're not, they're going back years later. And the main point we find across the board was financial situations. And of course, that is the number one reason why somebody wasn't finishing or was, putting their school on pause. So then that's when we got together and we decided, what is the best way that we can help them? Let's start with these scholarships. If it's something with SST, and right now we have SST San Antonio, we grew to SST Corpus High School, and now we have in Houston as well. So now we're having another one, and we have another in Hill Country here. So now we've grown to a lot. Hopefully, we'll have a lot more alumni, but that was something that we want to offer scholarships. So at the time we started, I think our first scholarship was like $500. And we went around selling chocolate, like one piece of chocolate was $1. We would put it in this little bag for a scholarship. We sold it to our superintendent. We sold it. Everybody was so willing to help. But it was the very first year. Now we've gone up to giving over $10,000 every single year and more. And they're very invested, but because you see real time, like what's happening, how we're giving back. Everything we do directly goes into our alumni. And the parents have approached us at graduation too. My child's going to graduate. And they've sent us videos of where they're at, how it's helping them, how it's kept them in college. Or the students that went away, hey, this helped me come visit my family, helped me get books when I was traveling back and forth, because it's a different time. So just to see the difference that it's making, it's just, like we said, we help them get to college, but our job now is helping them graduate. So it's a whole process. And I think that's what it comes back to, the SST family, not just when you graduate, it doesn't end there. Like, it's just beginning. That's what we always say. And that's what we're trying to stick by and, have that at the core value of like the SST Alumni Association.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to make sure and highlight like the alumni aspect of what y'all are doing. Okay. So my next question is going to be for both of y'all to kind of take turns answering. But I want to talk more about STEM education, because some families have probably heard of it. Some are probably like, well, what's that? Like, why the emphasis on STEM education? Like, how does that play into like the electives and extracurricular activities? And sort of how is that preparing students for the future? So how about Abel, you want to answer first, and then we'll let Elsie take a crack at it.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to jump in there first. First, I just want to say also, Elsie, you threw me off with all your kind words, choking me up with your sentiment. And, I feel like imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, and I'm so thankful that you joined the SST family also and reaching more kids. I think that's so amazing. But Inga, to get back to your question, why the focus on STEM? How does that prepare kids for the future and for their careers and things, right? And so the first thing I'll say is, do you remember 2003? You remember how different things were then? I think the world of 2003 was a drastically different world than the world of 2021, right? And if today your child is enrolled in pre-K today, they're probably going to hit the job market in 2038. So 2038, even thinking that far into the future, I'm like, am I going to be alive by then? But that's quite a jump into the future, right? And even today, the high pay, high prestige jobs are either all in STEM fields or STEM related. I mean, there's very few exceptions. And as time goes on, that allocation of high pay, high prestige jobs to the STEM fields is only going to get bigger and bigger, right? So there'll be more and more STEM fields. In fact, the President's Advisory Council on Science and Technology just reported through the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics that they predict that America will need 1 million more STEM educated professionals than America will produce over the next decade if America is to retain its preeminence in the world economy in terms of STEM, right? And that's pretty obvious when you think about, what that next big technology is going to be, right? There's a big push for renewable energies and things, and that's going to take a lot of STEM engineers. And I'll say, maybe that prepares them for their careers, right? The high pay, high prestige jobs. But I think the question is also, how does it prepare them for the future, right? And so to be STEM educated allows our students to have a real understanding of some of those serious world issues that are going to really affect the future. Things like sea level rise, right? Like sea level rise isn't really something that's being hotly debated, right? Like whether global warming is a human thing or if it's a cyclical thing, right? Maybe that's debatable, but nobody's saying that the sea level isn't going to rise in the near future, right? And so because we know that the sea level will most definitely rise, I mean, that's the future. And we need engineers that are going to come up with the engineering feats, those increased seawalls and higher seawalls, all kinds of special drainage and everything needs to be put into our cities. We need to prepare for the future, and there's no better way than STEM educations. And then to bring it completely hyper local, here in San Antonio, that I-35 corridor, I'm telling you, soon it's going to connect us to Austin, just like a Dallas-Fort Worth kind of situation, right? And right now, Austin is really eating our lunch in terms of the high-tech jobs, right? That's where the Tesla Gigafactory, Dell, all these big companies are heading out there. But something that we don't talk about enough is San Antonio is one of the big cities in America for cybersecurity. This is the place for it. And so, we really want to make sure that our kids are prepared, not only in understanding technology so that they can take those jobs, but also so that we can supply that workforce, right? We want to supply some of those 1 million STEM educated professionals that have high pay, high prestige jobs waiting for them. And we want to turn that into a better future for our entire community, right? Because that's going to bring more tax dollars. It's going to bring more innovation to our city. That's going to support all of us. And so by our village coming together and supporting our kids to get this STEM education, we're really making a better future for us all. And I'm so thankful to be part of that.
Yeah, that's great. Elsie, do you want to comment about the STEM education aspect as well?
Yeah, sure. Just really quickly, I think Mr. De Leon gave an amazing overview on that. But I think one of the things is like STEM is not only one of, core subjects, but it's also embedded into all of the classes the students take. And a little bit, even if it's like robotics, you have that, but you have it as a class, as a club. You take a little bit of a deeper dive as well as, like you said, cybersecurity, coding. It's something that it's embedded since the younger grades all the way up. So it's constantly changing. And especially with STEM, it's always an ongoing improvement. And I think the SST has done an amazing job changing from where we started up until now. They've evolved a lot. And that is something that I think has kept SST, as one of the top charter schools, because it's not, okay, this is working, we're going to keep this now. It's just, we're changing and we have to change with it. As well as I think one of the key things that I always remember, Mr. De Leon was always, as well as my principal, as one of the campuses, and one of the students came up and he said, "Hey, I want to make this club." He was interested in, I believe it was something computer based, like a video game. We're going to do this, and Mr. De Leon was like, "You know what? Get me this. Tell me there's a group of like 4 of you, and we can make it happen." It wasn't like, "Hey, we don't have this." It was what do the students want? What are they interested in? And we can focus on that and give that educational twist to it. So to them, they were having fun. They were, this is what I want to do. And yes, our principal was supporting us with having this club for us, but they didn't know that there's education in there. And then it's like, that's what we were saying. It's evolving, and to them, it's fun because this is our future. This is something that, they see every day, but they don't understand that, in the long run, you're working already with coding. And this is something that's being added to, like I said, not just like certain classes, but throughout all of the classes as it continues to evolve.
Yeah, you're preparing them for. I mean, the world will keep changing. And SSE keep changing. New clubs forming, new technologies in the classes, new clubs. But yeah, the world out there keeps changing. But SSE is keeping up, and the students will have the tools to adapt to it. Okay,
pretty sure they'll be showing us things like all the time.
Trust me, it already happened to me, Elsie. I'm a little older than you, but
okay. Next question is for Abel. I want to so Elsie mentioned about even young kids are doing STEM activities as well. And so I remember I got to visit our team. Laura and I got to visit SST Alamo last month, and we saw like upstairs there was the big makerspace that was more for like the middle school kids, but and then downstairs there was even for like the pre-K kids, like there was a lab that they could do stuff in. So if you could talk more about like what the SST facilities and how they're set up for STEM, and even including young kids.
Yeah, no, definitely, Inga. But I'll say I'd be remiss not to mention that I think the first thing that people notice upon entering an SST isn't even something maybe part of the facilities, right? I think the first thing that people report most commonly to me about kind of noticing when they come into an SST is the vibe, right? Just that warm atmosphere, that family feeling. They feel like they're welcome and that everybody's there to support them and to get them any information and help they need, right? Because a school, at the heart of it, a school is not a building. It's not brick and mortar, right? A school is a collection of hearts and minds, hearts that are beating together in unison as they march towards a goal of bringing a better future for our kids, and at the same time, leaving the world a better place than it currently is, right? And I think that's the number one thing people mention. But after that, quickly their attention turns to the near 3,000 square foot makerspace. That's something that's common to all of our ground up construction buildings, right? All of our newer buildings have been ground up construction. And in those, we put a 3,000 square foot makerspace. We put that into perspective. That's like the size of our cafeteria, for example, right? So it's a really big space, and it's full of equipment that even just learning to use that equipment teaches valuable STEM knowledge and skills for those kids, because that equipment is some of the equipment that's going to be huge in the future. Things like 3D printers and things like that, right? Robotics and things. And so that's, I think, something that they really notice. And they also notice the way that makerspace is really structured is about student choice. So they also see that students have a lot of choice, like Elsie was talking about, in kind of determining what they're going to work on, because we teach in a project-based learning format. And a big part of that project-based learning is to put it in the real world and then give the kids a lot of leeway so that they can find their own passion, right? They should find the passion in what they're doing so that they can then lead a purpose-driven life and get into a career that feels completely fulfilling to them, doing something they really love. And so that's something people notice. And then I'll say a third thing that people really notice, that they that maybe the unexpected surprise of the whole thing is when they see the gym and learn that we do compete in sports. I think a lot of people have it in their head that, charter schools don't have sports. They don't do that. That's something that's only done, in big public schools. But we do compete in the charter leagues against other charter leagues. And actually, we're doing very well right now. If you've been checking our Facebook, our flag football teams, our volleyball teams, our soccer teams, they're all doing big things. And so I think people are kind of surprised by that we do have sports also.
Yeah, yeah. The kids get to be well-rounded, and what I've noticed from the project-based learning, like that's a lot of what my kids talk about when they come home from school at the end of the day, and it does seem to be helping them build independence because they get leeway about how they implement things, and then they're more proud about the results because they've been able to make choices about how they do things. So that's yeah, I think that's really meaningful. Okay, so the next thing I want to ask about is about the National Schools of Character, and also that there's I guess so there's an event coming up. Oh, and we have a fun comment here. Let's see. So Allison says, yes, so much to love at SST, a great family to be a part of. So
Hey,
thank
Miss
you, Allison.
Hernandez, great to hear from you. I always love to see when our SST family gets on to show us some support on your show, Inga. I got to say, one of my favorite elements that you're doing, Miss Hernandez, great to see. You know, Miss Hernandez was featured in one of our parent testimonial videos you probably find on our Facebooks and stuff too. So thank you, Miss Hernandez, for being such a valuable part of the SST family.
Yeah. Well,
And then,
okay.
sorry, I feel like you asked me a question. I got
I
distracted.
did.
I was so excited by Miss Hernandez showing the love. But so you were asking about the National School of Character. What's significant about that, right? And then the Texas Character Education Week. So let me talk a little bit about that.
That's right.
You know, in my heart, SST has been a school of character since 2005, but from its inception, SST has taught character educational development. We used to call it CHED. I remember that one of my first days, everybody was talking about CHED this and CHED that. I was like, what's CHED? And they said, oh, character educational development. Come on, man, that's a big thing around here. So that's how I kind of learned about it. But I loved that we had a whole class for that. And so one of the things I'll say is that I think we've been a school of character since the way back, right? Teaching those values to our kids, doing service in our community, but not only doing the service, but making sure that there's a teachable moment involved, right? So that kids are learning while they're performing those service opportunities. But in recent years, we've really been working closely with character.org, which is a designating body for character education. And because of their 11 principles framework and a lot of the help and advice that we've gotten from them, we've been able to really pour fuel over the fire of our character education program. And I'm proud to say that what we're doing today at an SST school is almost unrecognizable compared to what we used to do. It used to be taught by a singular teacher in one class, right? It was just like another subject. Now, it's really embedded into everything, right? So STEM and character at SST are embedded into every subject. So you're going to be in an English class learning about character and STEM at the same time you're learning about, language usage and things like that. So I think that's really cool, and I'm really excited about it. And another thing I'll say is that we firmly believe that we are educating the next kind of cohort of leaders of not only our country, but our world, right? As the world becomes more and more interconnected, the world becomes a smaller place. And so it's a lot easier for, one individual to maybe make a bigger impact on things. And so for me, if we're going to produce the next generation of leaders, we have an ethical obligation to make sure that they are going to be moral actors and that they are going to make ethical decisions in those positions as leaders. And so one of the things that we've started at SST is the Texas Character Education Week. We were so excited when we reached out to the governor, Greg Abbott, and we asked him if he would issue a proclamation declaring Texas Character Education Day a couple of years ago. And he did it. And we worked with our community and we put on a little event and it was a big hit. And so the next year we reached out and the governor himself decided that everything's bigger in Texas. And so he did us a service and said, you know what? Texas Character Education Day is going to be Texas Character Education Week now. And so last year it was week. This year we got the proclamation just came in the mail. And we've got a big event scheduled. We're expecting thousands of people. I believe last year we had about 8,000 in attendance. We're looking to potentially double that number at least this year. And so we're inviting everybody. If you can hear me now, come check us out November 15th, guys. If you check us out on Facebook or on our website, you can see information about Texas Character Education Week and also the Color the World with Character poster drive. That's a big element to that. And so we hope that everybody listening can attend that and be inspired to exhibit great character and to celebrate it.
Yeah, and I'm proud of SST for showing leadership on talking about character education and having the week and the the event to talk about it, because lots of good intentions out there, but like when you crystallize it into an event, that's when change happens. Okay, so I'm gonna put everyone up on screen, and then just ask if you could each share like some stories or examples about things that demonstrate the school culture at SST. So I don't know, Elsie, do you want to go first, and then Abel? Is that cool?
And yeah, so I think that one of the things that does amplify, I want to say, to demonstrate our character and just the culture, just like any other school, SST, you have students, you have them come in and join classes, but I think that SST will give you as much as you put into it. Any student can attend SST, any other charter school, but how much are you willing to put the work in? And I think SST is something that the culture for us, it was always, there's no limit. If you're willing to work for it, it's going to happen. So a lot of the support was, I think that just made such a difference for me at the time. It was something that was crucial, because if I felt that, hey, they're supportive, they actually care, and they're asking me, and like I said, I had teachers nonstop asking me, like, how can I help you? Did you get this done? What are you looking for in the future? So it was something that did push me to want to better myself. And I think it's just like a little bit just like your parents. You never want to let them down. You always want to do better. And I felt that same connection with our teachers, with our our admin. At the time that I came on board with SST, I actually ran into one of my I guess he was like a dean at the time as well. Now he's one of the principals, and he was very keen on, hey, like, let me help you come work as an intern. We'll help you, and we'll work around your school schedule. And it was very surprising to me, just because, of course, like it's not every day that somebody reaches out, especially after graduation. So that culture didn't change when we graduate. So that was what really set me up for success in my end, just because I had that help going out throughout the whole process. And I think turning back that around, I have a younger sister. She just graduated SST this past year, actually. And with her, she was used to coming around when she was little. She would come around and perform at our international week. And I think she was like 5 years old at the time. And she was so excited, but everybody was so, I think, invested, like getting all the families involved. And she was doing folklorico dance at the time, and she came and danced. And I remember she was so little, but she was like, this was amazing. It was the greatest thing for her. And I think from seeing it from a child's perspective, because we were used to being there in high school all the time and seeing it, this is the greatest school. I love the colors of the school. She was just so excited. And she always talked about, she knew the culture that I was in as far as like school wise, and it was something that she wanted as well. And I saw how it helped me. My parents saw how it helped me. So went ahead, she enrolled at SST as well. And it was very interesting to see the same things that we went through at the time she was going through. And we were able to relate, just in that sense that SST has changed for, of course, like in better ways, but in also like the core values have remained the same. So it was interesting to see it on her point, because the same thing she would tell me, oh, they're doing home visits, or they're doing this. And I was like, everything I can relate. So for that, one of the things she always mentioned, she wanted to go to Harvard. She talked about Harvard since she was a little girl, and she would tell everybody, I'm going to Harvard, I'm going to Harvard. And since she was a little girl, and of course, like, those are high expectations. And we told her the same thing, like, one thing nobody can take away from you, like Mr. De Leon said, is your education. If you're willing to put the work in, you will get it, but you have to dedicate. We're giving you the tools at SST, but it's going to be up to the student. Like, what are you going to do? We have the support system, but it's going to take work. And she understood that. And, she was accepted. I think it was her junior year into the summer program with Harvard. She was so excited. We were all excited, of course, for her. And then she actually was accepted as early admissions at Harvard. And then maybe like an hour later, we find out, we're so excited. We find out, and she tells us, I got a full ride. Everything was paid for Harvard. We cried and everything, but we also realized that, hey, SST led the way. and stuff, and gave her all the tools. We were all there and stuff, but it's how are you willing to work with these tools? And I think that, like we said, the culture of it was always, we're supporting you and there's no limit if you're willing to work for it. And I saw that with myself, and she's at Harvard now, and she's in Boston, she's loving it. But it's also, she was very keen as to, hey, I want to help with alumni. I want to do this only because I see what it can help me with, and I want to get back. And that's the overall message that I get a lot with the alumni that we talk about, even interviewing them, like, why would you want to be part of the alumni board or any such thing? And they all say, I want other kids to have the same experience that I had. I want to be that for someone else. So just the fact that we're able to give the same message across so many years later that she's graduating, I think it's a beautiful thing to just be able to, okay, I understand what you're going through, and I've been there, we're doing the same thing. And it's nice to be able to do that circle and come back around to where we started.
Yeah. Elsie, those are great stories. And I just want to say, your sister, she is a beautiful person inside and out. And like how, she loves her dance and she loves teaching dance. And I got to talk to her when she had just come back from the Harvard summer program and was like so excited about it. And I just thank you for sharing, your sister's story and your story, like working with the alumni. Okay, I'm going to put Abel on the big screen here. Abel, do you have any stories to share?
I got a million stories, Inga, but I know we're already a little over time. So I'll tell a story that's very personal to me in terms of SST, just like Elsie's story is personal to her. When I started SST, like I say, I was just so taken by how amazing the system was and how in line it was with my own internal values and the way that I had been raised. And so I feel like I took to it like a duck to water, and it was just something special getting to work with my kids, getting to work with those Elsies of the world and everything, right? And so after 3 years in the classroom, I'd had 100% passing rate in all my subjects every year. And so I remember my principal came to me one day, and then this really speaks volumes about the SST way, because I'm not the only one with this story, right? This is a story that's common to SST. He came to me and he said, Mr. De Leon, I've been watching you. And I see your passion. I see the way that you connect with the kids, and I've seen your success in class. And I want you to be a pillar of this community. I want you to be around for years to come, and I want to prop you up so that you can have a big impact on the rest of the school. I said, sir, that sounds like a dream. But I got to be honest, Inga, at that time, I didn't know if I was ready for that. And I wanted the kids to have nothing but the best. And so if I couldn't be the best, I didn't want to take that seat, if that makes sense. And so I told him, sir, I'll tell you what, and I alluded to this earlier. I said, if you give me a letter of recommendation so that I can get a master's degree, it's something I was going to do anyway. I will get my master's degree in educational administration, and then I'll be proud to serve as an assistant principal for you. And then he said, okay, I'll tell you what, I was going to save this as a surprise, but surprise, I already did one better than that. I said, what do you mean? He said, actually, in just a little bit, the superintendent should be here, and he is going to let you know about how we're going to pay for your master's degree. At that time, the program was called the Grow Your Own program, but now it's called the STEP program. And every single SST campus has that STEP program where we're able to pay for 2-3 teachers at a time per campus to earn a master's degree in something so that they can further their career, further their knowledge, so that they can really connect with the kids and bring some of those best practices, some of those innovative things into the classroom. And so I'm so thankful that I got that master's degree. I earned a 4.0 in it, by the way. I feel like if it's getting paid for, then I better soak up every bit of that knowledge and use it for these kids. And so then I started doing that. And like I say, then they said, hey, De Leon, how about being a dean of academics and these other things? That'll help you prepare to be a principal. We think that you're ready to be a principal soon, and we just want to make sure that you're fully prepared. And so I got on that pathway and I started doing that. And so my entire career has been one of kind of moving up the rungs of the SST ladder every time, kind of being exposed to a new element and being able to kind of help to get us to that next level. And it's my honor to do it. And so SST, I guess what this story illustrates is that SST really looks at people as humans and as individuals. And it's that key difference that allows SST to do a lot of the things that before maybe looked impossible, right? And our core values are magic, moral compass, accountability, generosity, innovation, and citizenship. And I always say, what is magic but for something that before you did it, people thought was impossible, right? And the way that you do that is by working both smarter and harder. And next thing you know, the Wright brothers take flight, right? And things like that happen. And so to me, it's just a story that tells a tale of how SST empowers people that have a passion for working with kids and a dedication to educational excellence, and gives them even more knowledge and skills to do even better. And I'll say that not only do we have the STEP program, but also we have the PLCs, professional learning communities. We have all of these trainings built into our day. I've been to so many trainings and workshops and all kinds of things put on by SST or brought to us by SST. And so that's my story. The story of everybody wants their child to have the absolute best teacher, administrator, school, right? And SST really puts our money where our mouth is, not just through programs like the STEP program where we're paying for master's degrees, but also, Inga, let me mention that we are one of the very few recipients right now of the TIA grant, the Teacher Incentive Allotment, which means that right now there's even a profit motive for teachers that perform above and beyond at SST. So as long as they do well on their observations, right, the principal is giving good observations, we're seeing the SST way in effect in those classrooms. And at the end of the year, the kiddos exceed those growth goals that we had set. This is what's reasonable. This is what SST considers reasonable. This is where we want you to get them. Then those teachers will be designated as potentially a master teacher. And at some of our campuses, they'll receive a lump sum check of over $20,000 for 5 years following that, after earning that designation. And so not only do we empower the teachers by maybe paying for their masters and giving them training and supporting them, but also for those that show a propensity to go above and beyond, there's even that profit motive built in. And so that's something I think really gives a well-rounded system to SST and really sets it up for success.
Yeah. Well, what you're saying, I hope that if there are teachers listening, they're realizing, wow, this is a great environment to work in because of the STEP program. You can advance your education. The teacher incentive allotment. You can get, if you do an outstanding job helping your students grow, there's rewards for that. But I think as a parent, it gives me peace of mind to know that SST is attracting and supporting and training and developing the best teachers, because that's the contact where that children have. Like you said, it's not just a building; it's a community of people, and the teachers are really making a difference for the students.
And Inga, I'll say, around here we spell best with 2 S's, because we say if you be SST, right? If you internalize and enact the ways of the SST, then you will be the best. And so we spell it BE capital SST. And so any teachers who want to join this team, we're always looking for great team members. And maybe seeing this here is destiny. We look forward to meeting with you.
There you go.
Well, good. Okay. Well, what I want to do, this has been a great conversation. It's gone a little longer than we usually go, but it was totally worth it. But I want to make sure before we close out that we give families tips on how they can get more information and how they can enroll. So I think this might be an Elsie question. So I'm going to put Elsie on the big screen, and I have my banners ready. Okay.
Thank you. So if there any prospective parents are interested in applying, they can apply 2 ways. They can go online, and of course the website is being provided. Thank you for that. They can submit it online, but if they have any trouble with any of that, they can also go into any of our campuses. We have paper applications ready to go. If they want additional information about the campus, anything not related to applications, just what our campuses have to offer, they can contact our registrars or AROs at the campus, and they would be more than happy to help them with that. Our applications open November 1st, and they will run until February 11th, which our lottery will take place in February. But applications are open, so we're excited for all of our new parents.
Yeah, that's well, okay, yeah, like, let's see, one more plug for the blog post at shchartermoms.com, because we've got information there about like how to contact each campus, where the campuses are located. Again, it's all on the website, but I just also want to encourage people to go to the enrollment guide blog post. I think we structure information in a really easy to read way. And then
amazing enrollment guide, Inga. I want to say thank you for that. And anybody who's looking for more information about SST, I think that SA Charter Moms is a great place to start looking for that information.
Thank you. So I'm also going to plug our discussion group on Facebook. So SA Charter Moms discussion group, and that's a great. There's SST families, including me, in the group who can answer questions about like after school care and sports and clubs, and like the great fall festival that we had on Friday. That was fantastic. But I had such a good time. Yeah, there's so much to share.
Yeah, thank you. This and the same thing Mr. De Leon said. I think it takes a lot of your team putting all of this information for everybody, and for parents that might be first-time parents or just are interested in charter schools. And you make it so easy for for the information to be shared. And y'all are helping a lot, and a lot more that y'all are reaching out. So thank you just for having us as well.
Yeah, and some SST campuses even have pre-K. So yeah,
all of them.
Okay.
Yep. Except for the high schools, all of them have pre-K built in. And so, I'll say you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take, right? That's an oversaid truism, but it's oversaid because it is a truism. And so if you are hearing this talk right now on SA Charter Moms or wherever you might be seeing it, take it as a sign. Don't let it stop there. Look into this, and maybe it'll be for you, maybe it won't, but you'll have the peace of mind that you looked into it and you turned over every stone to try to find the best fit for your child.
Yeah,
that's what we did. We took a shot, and here we are, years later.
That's right. Okay. Well, this has been a great conversation. Thanks, you all. I hope this helps raise awareness of SST, because you guys are doing great work, and you just deserve more notoriety and more students in those seats. So
thanks for having us, Inga. It's been a pleasure, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Okay. Thanks. Take care.